Dispatchers help callers on the worst days of their lives. For over 25 years, we've been there. A silent partner in millions of calls thanks to our redundant and diverse networks that ensure call delivery. Today, cities are bigger, traffic more congested, and the challenge is more complex. But you're never alone, because InDigital is quietly improving, implementing, and driving the next generation of 911, so you're supported in every situation. Make the switch at indigital.net.
If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader in next-gen core services, and a big shout-out to subscribers of the podcast. As always, if you are, whether you are on Patreon, Circle, or Facebook, thank you for everything. And this is a wrap-up of some back-to-back episodes that I've been doing out here at Cobb County in Georgia. I'm out here teaching an 8-hour course on communications, but today, Wednesday, November 6th of 2024, I've recorded, I think this is like the 8th episode, and it has been amazing. I've been here with some 911 professionals, and they do some excellent work out here, and I'm just capturing their stories and all, and I'm excited for my next guest here, and I am with Desmond, who is the Community Relations Supervisor here at Cobb County 911, again, out of Georgia. How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm surprisingly not hoarse yet from my voice. I've been talking all day. Probably after tomorrow, I'll have to get a little bit of honey so that I can just kind of soothe the throat and all. But otherwise, man, it has been awesome. So it's been excellent out here with all of you. And it's just been a good time. So thank you very much for just the hospitality and for everything that you guys do. So, we were talking earlier before we started recording here, and you mentioned you're going on 10 years of service here at Cobb County. What has that been like for you?
It has been very, very fast. It does not feel like 10 years.
Yeah.
I've been doing the same thing. Not at all where I thought I would be, but I'm loving every bit of it.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is excellent. So let's go back in time really quick just to see how you got started to begin with. Do you come from a family of public safety, or did you just kind of jump in, you found it, and you're like, yeah, you know what, I think I want to try this?
No, not anything that I looked into. No family history of being in public safety or anything like that. My mother was looking for a job, and she decided to apply for 911. She wanted me to come apply with her so we could go take the test together. We tested together. We both passed the test. And she was like, I think that you would do much better at this than I would. And she said, you go for it. I'm going to drop out. And here I am. So I thank this career to my mom.
Oh,
she's the one that got me here.
That's awesome. So when you both started the process, did you both get a chance to do kind of a sit-along as well?
No, the sit-along was later in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we both sat down in a room with maybe 200 people, taking a handwritten test at the time. Now, of course, we have, the test on the computers, but it was a handwritten test and watching videos on the screen, and so happy we've gone away from that. Yes.
Was it overwhelming at all? Because as you said, there's that many people in there. It's got to be, it's just a sea of people, and you're there, you're all taking the same test, you're watching these videos and stuff. Like, what were some of the thoughts going through your head? Like, am I going to be able to do this? Or
It was new.
Yeah.
It was definitely different from what I was doing. I worked at a grocery store,
Mhm.
so I spent my days stocking yogurt and milk and spending my time in a dairy cooler. So this was definitely new, especially going through the hiring process and all that. And they're digging all in your background, and there's nothing in there. I haven't done anything,
Yeah.
but just having somebody strap you to a chair for a polygraph. And when I went to Kroger, I applied, and then they were like, "You got the job." So this was very, very different, and this is only my second job, and here I am. It's 10 years later.
Wow. So, okay, so really quick, how long were you working at Kroger then?
2 years.
So the reason I asked this too is, so working there at Kroger, some of the stuff that you were doing, or maybe even dealing with some of the folks who were there, do you feel like in any way some of that dealing with the public kind of prepared you at all for maybe some of the phone calls or some of the people that you were going to end up dealing with over the phone?
Absolutely. Customers will come to you about anything, even if it is not your department, not your section. So that's very much what this job is,
Yeah.
dealing with other people's issues and trying to help them as best you can.
Right.
Yeah, making sure that your customer or your caller is satisfied.
Wow. So a lot has changed from what it sounds like over these 10 years in the training process, maybe even the hiring process and all. What was that training process like for you when you were first coming in?
Training for me was pretty quick. I started in December, and I was training on radios by July. So a couple months of just sitting, watching other people do the job.
Mhm.
But then once we got started, it went by very fast. Did about 2 months of call taking training, and then, a month of call taking training, then released as a call taker on my own, went to radio training, and that was probably 2-3 months. Around that time, we were kind of pushing people out of training, and they got me through in like 37 days, which the usual was 70, but I made it through, and I didn't hurt anybody. So I guess I
made
did
it.
good. I guess I did pretty good.
Was there any point though when you were first starting out, and especially when you're doing the call taking piece of it, that I guess one, was it overwhelming at all, or also two, was there anything that surprised you, like eye opening?
No, it wasn't. It was easy, surprisingly easy.
Oh, I like that.
I now I say this, but I don't know what other people thought or what my people said.
Yeah.
But to me, I felt like I was in my groove. I was doing my thing, and everything was fine. But the call taking with the dispatching and all that. Of course, you have your nerves.
Mhm.
You hear news stories about something happening. You don't want that to be you.
Of course.
But then you just make sure it's not you and do the right thing. But I'd say it was pretty easy. The process was fun.
hmm
I had a very laid back trainer who kind of taught me the basics and then let me do my thing. And I had a great shift too. I would come in every day and just send random facts, Cobb County facts, to the shift until they got tired of it and
Right.
stopped. But I would send all kind of weird facts to them, and they'd be like, "Oh, this new kid is interesting," and then I guess they like me. I don't know.
Well, hey, that's awesome to hear, because there are there's other stories that I've heard where you had someone that, like you said, taught you the basics and then just kind of let you roam free, so to
Mhm.
speak, in a way. Of course, they were probably watching you just in case you needed something, but you were doing your thing, where you didn't have someone who was like right over you the whole
Right.
time, causing more stress.
Yes.
And or maybe even someone who's just like, just go, and if you asked for help, like they really didn't. Like I've spoken to people who have had that, but you had that support there,
hmm
and also the presence of a team that also supported you. They really kind of embraced you. It was that's almost an anomaly in some places, to be able to have that.
Yeah, it was a very interesting experience just going through the entire process. Like I said, it was easy, but I also think that's because I knew the area. I'm from Cobb County, so I knew streets. I know these locations that you're telling me. So
Yeah.
the geography part of it was easy. It was just the putting it all on the computer and saying the right thing. But the shift, the culture then has completely changed. But the people are still great people.
Yeah.
And that's what I love most about being here.
And I think that's also a really good thing, the fact that you are from the area, because for example, when I was working in the county that I grew up in, there was a specific landmark. It was called Water Tower Hill. And if you're coming in from a different area, you haven't grown up around here or whatever, as another example, someone would be like, this car crash happened over here on Bob's Road. And you're like, Bob's Road? But there's someone who's there who would know like what Bob's Road is.
Right.
That's a complete example. So in the same case, like for you, you know the area. So if someone said something like a Bob's Road, you'd be like, I know exactly where that's at.
Yes,
And then
exactly.
coming in new, you are also teaching some of the people who have been there already, like, this is exactly where it's at. Like, oh, so you got the new person coming in, but with fresh ideas as well, but because of the fact that you knew the area.
Yes, that definitely happened a couple times, especially in the area that I grew up in. It's not a city that we dispatch for, but we do have to go in there from time to time. And I know the streets, I know the area, I know the schools and all that, businesses and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm able to assist whenever our officers are over there on a chase or get into trouble.
So when you start getting into calls, when you start getting into the call taking piece, and they're like, all right, it's your turn now. Do you remember any of those first calls, some of those earlier calls that you took when you first started out?
Yes. My first 911 call that I took was a man that found his wife after she committed suicide.
Oh, geez.
So that was my first time picking up the call, and that's what it was.
Welcome to dispatch.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
So I've mentioned, yesterday in class, and I'll say it tomorrow as well, I've said, sometimes when you are taking those first calls, for some of us, like if dispatch was a gang, it's like you're getting beat in. And that type of first call, it's like,
absolutely,
you're getting beat in. Like, well, like I said, welcome to dispatch.
You have no idea what's coming. Yes.
So you end up taking that. Is your trainer close by you, or how was that working?
Yeah, we were connected together, and she was sitting right there next to me. She was the training coordinator. I took the call, and she was like, "You okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." "All right, you ready for the next one?" I said, "Yes." And
we're off to the races.
Answer the next call.
Yeah. Now, so 10 years ago, was there already kind of a peer support type that was implemented here, or was it like kind of talked about? Because, kind of thinking 10 years ago, there were some resources, but not a lot. Not a lot of people were talking about certain things that were going on. So that being your first call, you take it, you end up moving to the next one. Was there ever a spot where you kind of sat back and just kind of reflected on it?
10 years ago, we did not have a peer support team. We did not have quiet rooms. We had none of that. So we've definitely grown on that side and for the wellness of our team members. You had people that would check on you, of course, but there was no space to go.
Yeah.
Or someone specific to reach out to. So you just talked it out with whoever was nearby, and they helped you out, and somebody made a joke, and then you laughed through it and answered the next call.
Right, yes. And I think that's one of the things, too, that a lot of folks who have never done this profession, or even like medical profession or anything else like that where you're dealing with lives, that people don't understand. Because for example, I remember I would talk to my family and they would say, so how's, dispatch been? I'd say, I mean, it's been pretty slow. And they'd go, oh my God, like what? Like, doesn't that mean that people don't need help? And I would say, no, you're right. You don't understand though. It's just, I want to help people. Like that's what I'm there for.
Right.
Or I would, crack a joke, throw some of that dark humor in there and they would just kind of look at me. I'm like, okay, like I'm not dead inside. Like we need some of this humor, because otherwise you end up breaking.
That's how you get through it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Otherwise you end up breaking. So you end up taking this call, you're going through all of this. Like you said, you've been there 10 years. Are there any calls that kind of, stick with you?
There are a few of them that stick with me. Just like details that I remember about certain calls. There's a sexual assault call that I remember very vividly because it happened like right at shift change. So there was no answering more calls throughout the shift. It stuck with me because I went home after that. There's a shooting call that I took one time very early on in the shift that stuck with me just because I'm saying, no, don't do this. Don't do this. And then hearing gunshots. But there's one call in particular, person called me probably 3 a.m. and I was on the phone with the person for an hour and a half. Never put in a call, never sent help because they didn't want help. They just wanted to talk. And I was there to talk to them for an hour and a half. And they were having some challenges like paying bills and things like that. And kind of had some anxiety about it and being scared and just talking to them and saying, it's going to be okay. Here's what you need to do. Let's make a list. Let's make a plan. I need you to do this, 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 and this. And if you really need us, I want you to call us back. And every now and then, I still have the phone number and I still have the person's name. Every now and then I'll come up, log in the CAD just to check to see, did they call back? They haven't called back, so I guess things worked out.
Wow. How long ago was that now?
That was probably 2 years ago now.
It's interesting how a lot of that, how it sticks with us, right? And depending on the situation, whether it be maybe something that happened to you in your past, or I'm a firm believer that some of these phone calls are meant for us, whether it be something that we dealt with in our past or, an experience or whichever. Not to say that, our coworkers wouldn't do a great job. They'd probably do an excellent job. It's just that with that experience that we have, it's that deeper connection. And you stay connected like that. Now, I don't know if there was anything ever, in your life that you've experienced that kind of makes that a deeper connection or anything, but that also is a testament to, and I can tell how much you love your job and what it is that you do.
Absolutely.
The people around you, the people in the community, just all of it. You have that connection still with that person, just checking to see, did they call back? Was there anything else that happened? Dude, wow, that has goosebumps, man. Like seriously, I mean, and I think that's also why conversations like this are important, because there's people out there that don't fully understand.
Right.
A lot of times you hear things in the news, you hear these little clips, and dispatcher it's just, we got that level tone, right? But what they don't understand is like in the back of our minds, we're freaking out too.
Right.
We're feeling what they're feeling, and they stick with us. And obviously with this one, it sticks with you.
Absolutely. You don't work in a center that processes 905,292 calls and not have one of those calls stick with you. So the people that are out there on the floor answering the calls, busting their behinds, these calls definitely, these people, they stick with them. These are, yes, it's just a line ringing, but these are our neighbors. These are our pastors, our grocery workers, pizza delivery drivers, the people that we see next to us at the light. You don't know. You could have just talked to that person last week about something that was going on in their life. And that's why I love what I do. Working for the community.
Damn. this has been awesome, man. Just getting to know you, talking to you, and hearing your perspective on the profession, and just helping people out. Now, for those who are listening as well, how important is it for even just not just those field responders that are out there, but those in the public to understand the impact that they have on us, and I guess for you personally also, like the impact that we have on each other. So with the community first, to understand that impact.
I think it's very important. That's why, so in my role now as community relations over that unit, my job is to tell the story of the people out there that work here. And I say this all the time. Our phone number's on every police car and fire truck, but nobody knows who we actually are. And I get joy out of sharing who we are, who Cobb County 911 is, who 911 operators across the country are, and making sure that they understand that we are also a part of the community. For responders and just for each other, you have to share those stories, because you never know who's going through the same thing. You never know who's struggling with something else. But also that's how we get through it. That's how we get through the tough parts of the job, of life. Because we do go home and we have to still live our lives outside of working for 911. And you gotta talk to people.
Right.
You have to communicate.
It's how we relate.
It's how we relate
with each other as well. There's
Absolutely.
definitely that power through storytelling. And so how do you feel like this profession has kind of changed you?
Well, this profession has definitely gotten me through my early adult years. I feel like I've been exposed to so much more than I would have if I would have stayed working in grocery. I've met some of the greatest people here, both in this center and out on the road. I've been able to see the world. I've been able to do so many things because of this job. I now have an understanding of professionalism, of true teamwork, and doing something bigger than myself, being a part of something bigger than me. It's not about me.
Right.
It's about what I can do for others.
That's awesome. I could talk to you forever. And we're coming up on our time for this episode, but I have one last question for you. It's a question that I didn't tell you.
Okay. Oh gosh.
No, but it'll be an easy one. I mean, it might make you think a little bit, but so here's the question. You've got these 10 years, right? You're going on these 10 years of what sounds like a profession that you not only love, that's been eye-opening, that has really kind of helped you also kind of reflect on yourself, kind of come together with yourself. Like a job like this, and I felt the same way, you kind of confront a lot of things. Sometimes we get in our own way and we go through a lot of things to move forward. And sometimes you got to go back to basics to move forward. So with that said, these almost 10 years now that you have in this profession, if you could go back in time to talk to yourself in the beginning of this profession, what would you tell yourself? What advice would you give yourself? And it's not to change anything, right? Because as you said, there's a lot of things that have helped you through this profession and get through certain things. So not to change anything, but if you could go back to talk to yourself in the beginning, what would you tell yourself?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I would say, okay, not to change anything. I would just say enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
It's going to be an adventure. Enjoy the ride.
Awesome.
Yeah.
See, and the reason I say too is not to change anything is because there's a lot of stuff that we go through, right? Whether it be good, bad, whichever, that leads us to where we're at now, more experience and just learning more, just going through, building up, growing, as you know, we've been talking about as well. So that's why I say not to change anything, because you could go back and change something that completely changes your whole world than what you're living right now. And then you're like, wait, what did I change? Like, what did I actually do? So that's why I mentioned, this question actually came from talking with one of my sons, and he asked me, he goes, some of the things that you went through years ago, would you ever change that? And I said, no. I said, I wouldn't change that. And I said, because it's made me the person that I am today. And if I would have changed back then, I would have never gone to Florida, which means I would have never started dispatch, which means you would have never been born. And he looks at me and he goes, all right, Dad, that was pretty deep. I didn't think you were going to go that far. And I was like, well, you asked the question, man. Right. So from that's when I started asking this question, because I thought, man, if I could go back in time to talk to myself in the beginning, what would I tell myself? And one of the things, just to say things are going to be okay, give yourself some grace. So I love the way you put it. Just simply enjoy the ride.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a very fun journey. And I'm lucky to have been able to make it what I've wanted to. Take the best out of all the things that I've been through and just make it fun. Working in the 911 center does not have to be just sitting there answering calls, dispatching units. You can make it fun. You can make it what you want it to be.
Hell yes. Yeah. Oh, man, this has been awesome. Thank you so very much for everything. I appreciate it. Thank you for being on, and thank you for what you do as well for the community, for everyone around here, but also what you do for yourself as well. Thank you, man. This has been good. For those who are listening, if you have any comments, questions, or you ever want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, but to simply go through all of it, the easiest way to do this is to go to links.co/WTT podcast. That's links with 2 I's.co/WTT podcast. You'll find my email on there. You'll find all of the social media, where to hear the latest episode, and just a whole list of things you'll find down there. But the main stuff, email, social media, you'll find it there. This episode has been sponsored by In Digital, a leader Next Gen Core Services, and you can see this on Facebook, LinkedIn Live, X, as well as YouTube, and then you can listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you all in the next one.
You just listened to a Code 7 Network podcast. If you have any questions or would like to be a guest on the show, send an email to WTTpodcast@gmail.com.